So I'll go ahead and get started here. Real quick, I'm using Microsoft translation services again, which I was using earlier. I will try and keep an eye on it, make sure it doesn't time out on me. Let me turn it on now. So if you go to that link, which I'll paste the link in the chat room as well, then the there it is. Hopefully it'll do the live transcription and translation. It's pretty cool technology, except it is timing out on me. Hopefully the translations come pretty good, but what I've seen of the transcriptions is does a pretty good job transcribing it. I can turn my webcam on too. There we go. So check out the translation service if you want to get a real-time translation, and hopefully that will help. It probably is not going to be as good as well, it definitely won't be as good as if this was presented in other languages, but hopefully the transcription translation service will be helpful for people who may not be or may not be native English speakers. Or even if you are an English speaker and having a hard time hearing. It's a great accessibility thing. Definitely excited about this. Real quick about me, if you weren't in the last session, I'm Embarcadero Chief Developer Advocate and Engineer. Really passionate about software development and trying to help people be better software developers and teach people about software development. I think it's a great career to be involved in and a great fun hobby as well. So we just finished the summer camp kickoff intro to programming. This is going to be installing an intro to Delphi 10.4.2 Community Edition. So I'm not going to go through the, you'll see. Have to be quick because we have an hour before the next session starts, but there's the link right there for installing Community Edition. Let me paste that in the chat window. Hopefully you've already downloaded it, but if not, you can grab that and you'll be able to follow along later. So with that, let me jump over to I'm not sure why it's got these black boxes on here. Apologies for that. But once you've downloaded, oops, it's got to go here. All right. Once you've downloaded RAD Studio 10.4.2 Community Edition, or Delphi or C++ Builder. So Delphi and C++ Builder both use the same installation, but then the serial number you use will determine what gets installed. So I'm going to go ahead and start the installation process here. And this is a pretty plain vanilla Windows 10 box, so it should be about the same for everybody. So you will choose, I already have a product serial number, and I just realized I don't have a CE serial number handy, so give me 1 second. I got to go register for it. I thought I had, I just realized the serial number I have is not Community Edition, and I wanted to show exactly Community Edition installation. So give me 1 second. I apologize. Sorry, now I have to use the CAPTCHA. CAPTCHA is showing up more and more everywhere. Almost annoying. Oh, I got to capture it again. Apparently I don't know my password. Okay, so I'm going to show not with Community Edition installation, but it will be exactly the same as what you will be installing. You're just going to take my word for it. All right, so I do have to turn off I'll pause the screen right now. I put my password and everything, log in here. Let me try one more time. I know I have my password right. All right. Let me try one more time. Let's get a CE password or CE key. Log in. Training all the self-driving cars to recognize tractors. All right, it didn't work. Maybe my password's wrong. It wouldn't. So I've done. Okay, it's working. Okay, so again, I apologize. I am using a non-Community Edition password or key. I will explain the differences in what you'll be seeing versus what's happening. But so I know other people have downloaded it and be able to use it just fine. But so this is installing RAD Studio, which, like I said, I'll explain the subtle differences between Delphi and RAD Studio as we go. Someone's saying he's having trouble installing because of network security settings. You're going to have to talk to your network administrator. Sorry, if you're having some issues. So if you're installing Delphi Community Edition, you will not have Linux Enterprise or any of the C++ options here, but you will have these here. So I'm only selecting the four you'll get available to you with Delphi Community Edition, which is Windows. It won't say Enterprise, it'll say Community Edition, Mac OS, iOS, and Android. Okay. If you want to install additional languages, you can. I always install the samples. I think all of this stuff here. I can explain what each one of them does as well. I clicked next. So the samples is the sample applications, which is great. I use them from time to time even as well. Then there is the help, which you can use the online help at docwiki.embarcadero.com or the integrated help. I should have had a screenshot of that. That would have been useful, huh? You need to install, so there's T-chart, which is a charting component, and that might not be included in Community Edition. I'm not positive. I think it is. There is the Android SDK and Adopt OpenJDK, which is the Java development kit and runtime that's needed for Java and Android support. Android uses Java. Delphi doesn't require you to know Java, but it's in that layer, in those layers there is Java as well. And then Interbase is in there. Interbase is a database that is also offered by Embarcadero. We provide a developer test version, if you will, with this, and then IBX is a set of interbase components that's also provided in there. So if you go to the page to get Community Edition, to get Community Edition, you will get a serial number in your email. You'll have to use your own serial number. I can't give you my serial number to use. Same reason I can't give you my Windows 10 serial number. Doing the download. I thought I was using the offline version. So this is going to take a little while on my download. I can certainly do questions during this part, but I will be able to jump into some other things as well. So the main page for this, make sure my translation is still running. Transcription stopped. All right, transcription is going in. If you go to the main Embarcadero, the main page for this, let me put the link in here for it. If you go to, there will be links to the other days and topics here. So go to that link I just put in there, and you can find links to other topics that other days and other topics from that, which will get into some of the other basics of HTML, SQL, and such as well. Some of that will be available on demand. C++ installation is it's going to be exactly the same as Delphi, just it'll be C++ versus Delphi. I did want to provide one that's C++ specific after this as well, but most of it be interchangeable. Richard says he's installing at the same time I am. His is running quicker than mine, so it's a race now. Yes, so if you didn't install everything, you can go back and change your installation options later. So actually what I'll do is while that install is running, I'm going to go ahead and bring up another virtual machine that I was using earlier. So this is already installed, but I can go switch back to the virtual machine to show you the installation process when there's steps you need to do. But at this point, it's mostly a waiting process. I'm going to close. So when you install RAD Studio, like I said, RAD Studio is the bundle of Delphi and C++ Builder. You will have on your Windows Start menu both Delphi, C++ Builder, and RAD Studio. So I'm going to open the Delphi that's installed with RAD Studio, and this is going to be pretty much exactly what it's going to look like for you, with a few notable exceptions I'll point out when you install Community Edition. So Delphi creates programs. Delphi creates programs that run on Mac OS, but the Delphi IDE runs on Windows. Can I send the form in the mail? I can put it in the chat window, but it's actually already in the chat window, but I don't think I can send it to you in the mail. You can install both 10.4.2 and 10.3.3 on the same computer. So they can run side by side. So yes, you can get if you have 10.3.3 and your license is expired, you can go out and request a new 10.4.2 license. you will, when you install that, you can uninstall 10.3 since you're not using it anymore and install 10.2. There is a settings migration wizard you can use. Let me look at what it's called. I think it's Migration Assistant or something like that. I'm gonna turn my webcam off because that will speed up my computer here. Okay. So if you go into the folder here, oh, it's right here, migration tool. It's on the menu. So when you install Windows, migrate, if you installed 10.3.3, you can go into the migration tool and run this, and it will allow you to, you could say, export settings to a migration file, and you can take your previous version. I've only got 10.4.2 installed, but you drop this down and it would say 10.3. You select 10.3, say, I want to back up everything or only certain things, and it'll save it off to a file for you. Test of export. I'll put that on my desktop. And then it's exported it, and then you run this again when you reinstall. So you uninstall, do that, export your 10.3 settings if you want to. You don't have to. And then install 10.4.2, and then you run the migration utility again, migration tool again, and you would say, I want to import settings from a migration file. Come in and select your 10.3 export. I'm looking at the camera even though it's not on, and import that back in. So that's what you do to migrate your settings over between 10.3 and 10.4. That's really useful. Yes, so C++ is the same. The IDE runs on Windows. Let's see. You don't have to uninstall 10.3 to install 10.4. They can exist side by side. Oh, so I was going to show, if let's say you didn't install everything the first time through, you can come in here and say to Tools, Manage Platforms, and get an error message apparently. That's interesting. So this virtual machine is running in Windows 11. Usually you come in there and do that Tools, Manage Platforms, and it will give you the window again where you can add and remove platforms or optional features again. Apparently that part's not compatible with Windows 11 on ARM. This is Windows 11 ARM, which is not an officially supported platform, but that's what I happen to have running. But yeah, normally you come in here, Tools, Manage Platforms, and you can add and remove features from there. So C++ Builder, Community Edition, and Delphi Community Edition don't coexist on the same computer. Delphi uses the Object Pascal programming language, or the Delphi dialect of Object Pascal programming language, whatever you want to call it. C++ Builder uses the C++ programming languages. I wonder if I'm having some network issues here too, because that shouldn't be running there that long. I will jump back across to my install still running. Yep. So let's jump back here to Delphi. Once it's all done, I'll give you the tour of the IDE here. So this is the welcome page. This is recent videos on our YouTube channel. show up here from time to time, new videos, just to see some stuff that's new, some recent webinar replays and stuff will be available here. You'll also have here you can watch some getting started guides, and here's where you can create new projects. You can open existing projects. So there's two options. There's VCL, which is Windows only, and there's multi-device, which is FireMonkey, and that works across Windows, iOS, Mac OS, Android, and then if you're in Enterprise, which is not included in Community Edition, Linux. Yeah, so you can't install Delphi Community Edition and C++ Builder Community Edition side by side. It's in the FAQs that you cannot support it. So if you are trying to install Community Edition C++ Builder on top of Delphi, it will tell you, no, you cannot do that. So that's not supported. It's from a technical reason it's not supported, and the license does not allow for it either. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make a new VCL application. A couple of things I want to show you. So under here, if I go File, New, you can go to Other and get a full list of all the things that are available to you to create from Delphi. DUnit is for unit testing. You won't have data snap. That's a enterprise feature. And you won't have RAD server as an enterprise feature, but you should have the rest of these, I believe. But you can make web server applications that can create web pages that can run the web server, install into IIS or Apache. But we're going to go ahead and start with just a simple Windows VCL application. VCL is the visual component library. It's the default visual framework for Delphi to create Windows applications. I just wanted to check here. I got a couple. All right, make sure it wasn't an emergency. Okay, so I've made a new VCL application. So this is an application that I can create that I can run on Windows 32-bit or Windows 64-bit. This is the design surface. So I'm going to give you kind of an overview of the IDE here. This is the design surface. You can think of it like your canvas in an art program, or the document window in like a word processor, where you would be. This is the design surface, and then this is the coding area where you write the code. On the design surface, we can put down components from the component palette here. And then this is the project manager window. This shows you everything that's in the project. So our project made up of multiple files, and you can change the build configuration, the target platforms, etc. from here. This is the structure panel. The structure panel is useful for seeing how things are structured. So for example, right now I have a panel and a button separately on here, but I could put the button on the panel, and now the button is a child of the panel. So I can move the button independently of the panel, or the panel with the button in it. And so the structure panel makes it really easy to change that behavior. So now the button is back on the form itself. The object inspector is down here in the lower right. This is what gives you the ability to change the way the button works, or change the properties and events of the object that's selected, which in this case is a button. By default, when you drop a component on the form, it's given a name of what it is. So in this case, it is a T button by convention in Delphi. All classes, which we'll get into that later, start with the letter T for type. So it takes the T off, it's a button, and then adds a number that counts up. So if I put another button down, it'll be button 2. Button 2. But you can't, so that by default it names it that and then gives it a caption or a text of that. displaying it. So caption button 2. But I can change that. If I change the name, and I haven't changed the caption yet, it'll change both. Oops, I can't name it that. It'll update the caption as well. Okay, and then you also have events. Events is where you make this interactive. So now let's go. This is one of the great things about Delphi. So I'm going to back up a little bit here. Now that I've showed you the overview of the IDE, and we're going to make a console application. So I'm going to go down here and say new console application Delphi. So most other or many other programming systems where they teach programming start with consoles, because that's the tools they're using are designed around console development, and getting to the level of doing a graphical interface is a lot of effort. Delphi gives you the ability to go with both very easily, which is one of the things I love about it. A question here, if I have an old version of Delphi installed like XE2, can I install Community Edition on the same machine? Yes, you can. So different versions of Delphi can coexist side by side, but you can't have two different editions of the same version. So you can't have, or subversions, you can't have two of the same subversions installed. So if you have XE2 and 10.4.2, those can coexist side by side, but if you have 10.4.2 and 10.4.1, they can't coexist side by side because they're subversions of the same version. And likewise, you can't have C++ Builder 10.4.2 and Delphi 10.4.2 can't coexist side by side. Okay, so I have a console application. So a console application is like the simplest kind of program you write. This is, and actually I'll even simplify this even more. This is a little bit of a boilerplate it puts in there to simplify things, but there we go. That's the absolute simplest program I can write. And then I would say write-len. So this would be the simplest program. One problem is when I run this, it disappeared too quickly because I couldn't see it. That's because the box that it ran in went away immediately. I can, let me save this. And I'm going to go in Windows Explorer into that folder. And let me delete this because I got some other stuff in there. Okay, so now when I run this so in the way it's set up by default, it creates a folder. So let's just build. It creates a folder called Win32 because I'm building it for Win32. Debug project 1. And this is the compiled version of the code I just run. So if I open up a command prompt window here and I drag and drop that on there and run this, we'll see it says hello world, right? So there we go. That's a very simple program, hello world. If instead I want to have it stay there until I tell it to go away, I can say readlen. And this is short for write line and read line. So if I run this now, it opens up the terminal window and stays there until I hit enter and it goes away. Okay, but the if I go into a terminal window into this folder, I can say there it is, project 1. I'm gonna say project 1 and run the program. Oops, it's case I'm in PowerShell instead of command, so it's case sensitive. There we go. Now I'm in command shell, and if I say project 1, I'll do it lowercase just to show I can. hello world, and it's waiting for me to hit enter, and I hit enter. Okay, so very basics of building a command line program. The how it gets built. If I change this target to Win64, which you're not going to do console application with other platforms. You can technically, but we're not going to get into that. But if I do this and now build for Win64, and then come back into here, if I go back, I'll see now there's a Win64 folder with a debug folder, and there's my program in there. So that's where it goes. So now when you write a program, you're writing code. This is the recipes, the instruction telling the computer what you want it to do. Then your compiler will take that code and turn it into language, something that the computer can understand. So in this case, it's taking the Object Pascal code and compiling it down into a Windows program, which go properties, it's a .exe file, right? So a Word document is a .docx. Different files have different extensions, and that's the type of file it is. So here it is. This is the program. It compiled it down, linked all the libraries into it in order to make it a program that the computer can understand. So a compiler translates something that's human readable, that's understandable both the computer and the human, into something that's only understandable by a computer. Now, when you do writeland hello world, what you're doing is you're calling this function or this procedure called writeland, and you're telling it what you want it to display. And the thing we're telling it we want it to display is that's called a string there because it's a string of letters. You could also tell it that we want it to just display a number, 42, for example, and it will display 42. I realize that's kind of small, but it's not surprising. What's being displayed. So those are two different types of data, right? We have a string, which is a string of letters, and then there is a number. So now you can store those values in a variable, okay? So a variable, actually, so if you're using 10.3, you can't do it this way. In 10.3, you have to do it slightly differently. You go var, you have to define your variable outside the block. So we'll say my number, and we'll say it's integer. So what this is doing here is I've declared a variable. So I've told the computer that I want to use a variable. Now you can think of a variable as a identifier or a label for some data, all right? Like a shoebox, for example. Let's say I have a shoebox that's labeled my number, and we have rules about what that shoebox can contain. Right here it says that shoebox can only contain an integer, a whole number. Positive or negative. So I can say my number equals 42. Writeland my number. All right, so now if I run this, it'll run the same as it did before, displaying 42. I think I can change the font size on here and make it stay that way. All right, so 42, let's see if it stays that way when I restart. And I can, I can't, however, say, like that, because that, even though you and I recognize it as being a number, the compiler is giving me an error message. It says incompatible types, string and integer. It says that over here too, and if I try and run it, it'll say failed error down here at the bottom, incompatible type, string and integer. So there are ways you can convert between words to letters and convert things and stuff like that. But the important thing I'm trying to spell out right now is that there are different types of data, and different variables can hold different types of data depending on how you define them. So no, I don't want to change what language I'm typing in. I must have tapped a key weird. Okay, so I can say my number is 42. Now, because 42 is an integer, I can do basic arithmetic with it. So I can say my number my translation thing, it says it can't connect to the speech service. What? Maybe that's what was happening before. It disconnected from the speech service and wasn't able to work anymore. Let me log in again. I have to create a new room. Sorry, it completely lost all of it that time. While it's doing that, let me switch over to the installation and see how that's going. So it has a dialog that pops up here. Now you may or may not get this. When you're running the installation, I can't remember if it shows up for just if you just have Delphi installed or not, or if it's only for C++ Builder or RAD Studio. And you actually don't need to install this. This is some tools that we include but are not required. This is part of Microsoft's Windows Software Development Kit, so you can actually hit cancel, although there are some useful tools in here, so you're welcome to install them if you want to, but you don't have to. So I'm going to say cancel installation. Installation was canceled, and that is for the Windows SDK, and now it goes back to the RAD Studio installation here. So now let me, oops, wrong. Switch back to there's the new link for the translation in the chat window, and Ian's here helping answer questions. Thank you so much, Ian. I appreciate that. So that's great. So if you have questions, he can answer them without me having to stop. Although if there are questions that are, if they're related to what I'm working on, discussing, I will try to answer those here as well. So back here, I've declared my variable, my number, as an integer. Now, I can call this pretty much whatever I want to call it. Here I'm calling it my number, which describes what kind of data is in it, a number, but I could call it Fred if I wanted to, and it could still contain a number. This is what defines what can be in that variable type. So, but now that I have a number, an integer, I can say my number equals my number times 2. Okay, so pretty sure you can all guess what it's going to say, but I'm going to run this here anyway. And sure enough, it's 84. So this is what you do basic arithmetic. Now, computers are really fast, so you can do a lot of arithmetic really quickly with this and get there. Although, I mean, you can do it for that. I've solved complex mathematical things before with a computer, and it's certainly a possibility with your programming skills, but not usually the main purpose of doing that. Is there a way to increase the font size on the side windows? There is not, but what I can do is, let me turn up the font size on windows altogether. Actually, there is a way to increase the size on the side windows, but I just never can remember it. Display resolution. So let's go with, I think, no, not quite that one. I want to go with that one. Yes. All right. So that will make everything a little bigger. And I'll make this text a little smaller here now. So thank you for asking that, Derek. Okay, so Dean and Richard said that they did get the Windows SDK when installing just Delphi Community Edition. All right, I wasn't positive on that. So Genovi's asking if Delphi has variant or auto data types. Yes, it does. It actually has a type called variant that can automatically change what type it is. There is a library for Delphi called Delphi that introduces duck typing, which is common in some other languages. Duck typing is the idea that you don't care directly about what type something is, but declare what you care about what's put into it. So all those features are available in Delphi, but for talking about the fundamentals, learning things, I'm trying to talk about data types as well. But yes, all those things are available in Delphi. Interesting. So Martin's saying that every time he tries to install it, he gets an error that BDSEXE cannot be found. I have never gotten that error message, but I do know that sometimes if you have some sort of antivirus or software running, you may not have proper security permissions, or it could be some sort of software that is preventing that from happening. Gosh, I'm trying to think. If you've seen lots of links out there, see if somebody else has posted a thing about how to fix that. I've not encountered that error message. My gut instinct is to disable the malware antivirus type software on the computer. Make sure you're installing it. Ideally, you should be running as a user with administrative privileges. And when you start the installer, it'll pop up and ask you to grant administrative privileges, and do that. If it's possible that if your user doesn't have proper privileges, you can't install in the folder for the file to be found. Yeah, those are the things I'm thinking of offhand, but unfortunately, I've never seen that error specifically. I used to do computer tech support years ago, and so I did a lot of troubleshooting stuff like that back then. But I'm not aware of anything specifically that would be Delphi related that would cause that. All right. This is just finished. My install's finished here, so I was going to switch over to the other computer. That might be too. I was going to blow up the size on there, but that might be too small. Or too big of a font. All right, let me go and switch back over to the other one. And display settings. Let's go with, I think that'll work. All right, so when you're all done, you'll get this screen here, operation completed successfully, start working. Community edition does need to be, again, this is saying I'm on enterprise, but yours will be community edition will be slightly different. But the it does need to be able to connect online, and I'm not sure exactly how often. I think the FAQs might say that on this page that talks about that. All right, so here you go. First installation, first started. You're going to choose the theme you want. You can do light, mountain mist, or dark. I personally like dark, but I found that when presenting, I think these show up better. So I'm going to choose Mountain Mist. That's a new one that was introduced in 10.4. If you're on 10.3, that's not an option there, but you can certainly customize it quite a bit as well. Here's where you could specify your source control. This is a good idea to use source control, but if you're just learning programming, probably not need to worry about it right away. I do like turning on auto saving files. That way it automatically saves your files as you are doing things. Oh, and there was also a link there to import your migrated settings if you had import from the previous one, like I discussed earlier. There is a patch available. So 10.4.2, there's 3 patches available for that. You can come in here and install those patches. I will install one of them. I'm not going to install all of them. Let's install that one. I can't remember if that one might install the other ones by automatically, but one of them does. So this is the process where you can update it. You can also use this. There's other, so you see it says 273 other packages that are available in here. You can get other packages. I'm not going to get into that a lot, but this is a place you can go find some of the third-party components or additional components that are included from Embarcadero for Delphi or C++ Builder to provide additional functionality. Some of the things that are available in MyGetIt will be different because they are premium features that are only available in Enterprise or Professional, whereas there's still many that are available for Community Edition though. So it's not like it's not going to do anything for you at all. All right, so there's a README. We're not going to read the README. I'm not saying it's not good information, but I'm not going to read it right now. Okay, so Tramondy saying that they downloaded RAD Studio on their MacBook and they opened to get a message to Windows program. So Delphi, RAD Studio, C++ Builder are Windows applications. So you would need, I am running a tool called Parallels. It is a, let me get the window up here, Window Control Center. And then about Parallels Desktop. So that's what I'm running as Parallels Desktop. It's a virtual machine software that lets you run Windows and Windows programs on a Mac. If you have a Windows computer, you do not need a virtual machine software. You don't have to use Parallels. There's also VMware and VirtualBox. VirtualBox is free open source virtual machine program. VMware and Parallels are both commercial programs, although I believe VMware has some free versions, community type version as well, or a free desktop version or something. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but so there's options there. So you do need a Windows 10 machine, whether it be an actual computer running Windows 10 or a virtual machine running Windows 10 to run Delphi or C++ Builder. A lot of programs. I'm running on a Mac here. I like both Windows and Mac, but there are some programs that only work on one versus the other. Okay, so I'm going to go back to where we were, but I'll make it on this new one here just because. Let's go ahead and make that font a little bigger. I want to change the font too. I like, let's go with that one, and we'll go with the regular one. All right. So simple console application. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of extra stuff in here. So All right, same code we did before, right? Number. My number equals 42. Right line. So I had a lot of trouble with spelling when I was growing up. My parents thought, oh, well, computers would be a great way for you to learn to spell better because you have to spell things right for computers. Yeah, I mean, I guess I learned, probably, honestly, I learned how to spell keywords for computers, but I still spell things incorrectly. I'm better than I was. It definitely motivated me to learn to spell for computers because that was something I was interested in. Oh, great. Thank you, Bruce. Bruce just shared a screenshot of the Manage Platform screen. It's not changing to that. I can't change out of this now. All right. I just shared it in there. So if you want to see it, you can see the Manage Platform screen. Oh, Richard's is still installing and mine's finished. So, oh, wow. Dang it. Okay. Well, I guess was kind of the basics I want to cover is the installation and the basics of installing and the IDE. We will have more later in the week. There are more content that I'll have. Check the webpage for Tuesday to see the some of the content that's available on demand and live on building on this. This is just really the basics, installing, answering questions around installation. Okay, and with that, I'm going to close down and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye. Or tomorrow, whenever you join.